democracy. We say we're Democrat, but then we start going down the list of what do you believe in and what do you identify as institutions. So we should have a constitutional representative democracy. Yo, what's up? It is another week, good people. By the way, that's LDC. Shameless plug here in a moment. What's up? Thank you for joining me. It is I again, your humble host, Lawrence Sanders Jr., and you are joining us on Be the People. It is Tuesday, good people. If you are driving home, please be safe. Keep your hands and your eyes on the road and on the steering wheel. But if you are joining me, go ahead and drop a comment in the comment section so I know that you're here hanging out with me. I want to thank you for joining me. I get to do this every week and I love it. I love it. Big shouts out to the producer, the production team of Chef Shawana. Hey, if y'all haven't ordered any of her seasonings or tuned into her shows or her channel, go check it out. We are on YouTube. We are also on TFG on Facebook. Please go check it out. It is a lot of good stuff on TFG. Shouts out to the boss man, Mr. Lamar Falk himself, the visionary behind making all this stuff happen. Hopefully I'm gonna run into him one day while walking downtown because he showed me down there and he down the street. Hey twin, that's my mammy, y'all. My mama is on. Y'all say hey to my mama. Let's just pray she don't cut up too much in these comment section. Which reality TV? Yo, what's up? That's a new face. I like to say hello and welcome to Be the People. Again, this is a call to action. Be the people. We are the people, but we have a call to action. We have a responsibility in our nation. People who tell you to not vote or retarded, they don't know better because there is so much power in our vote. We talk about it all the time. This is more than just voting on, in November every 4 years. It's more than just that. We have to know what powers we do have so we can use them. It's that simple. So here on Be the People, that's what we talk about. That's what we get into. And today's show is no different, but it's going to be real good. We're on Article 5 of the Constitution, but just a quick recap. If you were with us last week, we talked about Article 4. And if you missed it, that's all you get. Go back and watch the video. So we are in to Article 5 of the United States Constitution. I want to go ahead and get into this because I want to spend some time talking about the Daily Take today, which is very interesting. And again, if you're watching this, go ahead and share it. Start a watch party. Tell your mama, your granny, your aunties, your uncles, your cousins. Let them know that Lawrence is on Be the People and he got something very important, some information that I want to share with y'all. Just some stuff that is going to help us, to empower us to be better as people. I believe that we are taken advantage of because of what we do not know. There are a lot of things that we don't know concerning our government. There are a lot of things that we don't know concerning our Constitution. There are certain things that we do not know. And so it is our task, our responsibility, our call here on Be the People to get information out. People perish for their lack of knowledge. People are destroyed and taken advantage of because they don't know, they don't have any knowledge, and they don't understand. So here on Be the People, we are here to bring enlightenment and understanding. So with that being said, we talk about a lot of junk here. So we're going to get into it. We are talking about Article 5 of the Constitution. Now, again, somebody asked, what is Be the People? What does Be the People have to do with anything? If you want to understand Be the People, it is basically the B side of history class. That's all it is. It's just the B side. And what I mean by the B side is the part that your history teacher didn't talk about, that they didn't specify or go into. That's what we talk about here on Be the People. And again, Be the People, it is a call to action. Not we the people, but we have to be the people. Another shameless plug before we get into Article 5. Please, if you have not completed the census, go and complete the census. Some of y'all complaining about these folk knocking on your door and calling you and reaching out to your mom and them. Just complete the census. It's pretty simple. Complete the census. It takes all of 5 minutes. It takes all of 5 minutes Just go answer some questions, because again, this is impactful. This is how we have power in our government, is by completing the census. And if you don't know, I'll give you the quick version, but you can go watch that episode of Be the People. But the government needs to know how much representation we should have. We talk about our representatives. So how can we know how many representatives we need if you don't fill out the census? So please, 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 please fill out the census. Please fill out the census. It will let the government know based on the districts and who fills out the census. It tells them, hey, we need to create another representative. And we'll see today, based on Article 5, we will see today how important that is. There are some things that have never happened in history, but our founding fathers, they were kind of smart when they put Article 5 in the Constitution. And we'll go ahead and hop into Amendment 5. I'm gonna read it. I know a lot of these dow's, and you know, the way they said that stuff back then, it's kind of weird, you know, whatever. But I'm gonna read it, and then we'll put it into layman's terms, and then we'll figure out, like, what does that have to do with us? How does it apply to us? And then what can we do with that knowledge? All right, here we go. Article 5 of the U.S. Constitution, and this is just based the usconstitution.gov. This is what it says when they wrote it. The Congress. So this is addressing Congress. Whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution. That means that they can change it. So when 2/3 of both houses see it necessary, they can change or add amendments to the constitutions, or on the application of the legislatures of 2/3 of the several states shall call a convention for proposing amendments, which in either case shall be valid to all intents and purposes as part of this constitution when ratified by the legislatures of 3/4 of the several states, or by conventions in 3/4 thereof, as the one or the other mode of ratification may be proposed by the Congress, provided that no amendment which may be prior to year 1808 shall in any manner affect the first and fourth clauses in the 9th section of the first article, and that no state without its consent shall be deprived of its equal suffrage in the state. Blah, 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 blah. What does that mean, Lawrence? I am so glad you asked. So remember, the Articles of Confederation were written. That was the governing document. We found out that sucked because there were so many loopholes. There was no balance of power. There was no judiciary, executive. No, there were no branches. And so therefore they wrote the Constitution. So the Constitution is now present. It's the abiding document that the United States lives by. This is what governs the nation. The first 10 are called the Bill of Rights. These are articles, not amendments. So the first 10 articles are called the Bill of Rights. So when we get to number 5, though, they figured out that there's a possibility that we may need to make changes to this. So it was obvious that they learned previously from their mistakes. So instead of having to write a completely new document, it was like, okay, let's put something in writing that says if we ever get to a point, as we're growing, as we are evolving as a nation, as we're growing as a country, as we expand westward, south, let's put something into place that will allow us to make amendments, right? So in order for there to be amendments, 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary to propose amendments to the Constitution, right? So 2/3 of both houses have to agree. However, that seems like the easier way of the two to get, amendments, right? And this is what this is talking about. This is talking about, this is how we get amendments. But there's something, again, this is the action piece that I want to talk about, because there's something here in the writing that gives us people authority. And if you read it and you pay attention to it, it's like, oh, I see. So the first portion of it says, the Congress, whenever 2/3 of both houses shall deem it necessary, shall propose amendments to this Constitution. Or that means there's another alternative or another action that could happen to make changes to the Constitution, right? It says on the application of the legislature of 2/3 of the several states shall call a convention for proposing amendments. So check this out. This is how this works. They put this in the Constitution. So 2/3 of the state, if they demand that there be a change, that's a total two-thirds of 50 is like what, 33, 34? My math whiz is what's 2/3 of 50? They're like 33, 34, 35. I think it's 34, something like that. I need my math whiz. Where y'all at? What's 2/3 of 50? How many states is that? All right, so I think it's 34. That's just mental math. I'm just kind of, so if let's just say 34 of the states demand there has to be some kind of change, Congress has to call a constitutional convention for all 50 states to gather, and then they talk about whatever amendment that needs to be made that's put on the table, right? So think about it. Paul said 30. I don't know if that's right, Paul, because let's see, 1/3 of 50. Listen, Lamar needs to come up with the math show. I'm sorry, this is history. My bad. Go down the hallway to the math class. I don't know, but I know it's something around there. So 30 of the states come together and say, we need to change something. Something needs to change. Something's got to shake. All right. What has to happen now is what's called a constitutional convention, where now at this convention, representatives, if we know, we've been following Be the People, who are how and who are representatives selected. Wait a minute. The representative that you voted for or that was assigned to you because you filled out your census, remember, as a part of our call to action, right? We vet people who have our ideology and have our perspective and who have our mindsets, right? We vet them and we send them, right, on our behalf. Here's an opportunity where that can happen. However, it has not happened. Unfortunately, it hasn't happened. And I think because we talk about the division of the nation, 37 and a half. Paul said 34. Yeah, I think it is 34. That's just mental math. I'm not no 37 and a half, mammy. That's my mama, y'all. She could be right. I don't know. I was just doing mental math. But anyways, so here's what can happen. 30 states in the United States says, I'm tired of police brutality, and we need to amend some stuff in the Constitution. We need to make some changes to the documentation. And there are 30 states that says that. Based on Article 5, our government has to call a constitutional convention. Once a constitutional convention is called, the delegates or the representatives, right, that we choose, that we select. Remember, we select our representation. All right, the House of Representatives is comprised of people that we vote for. We have the power to send the representatives. And Paul just posted, Congress must act on yeah, what he said. So check this out. So they all come together. It's like, yo, we tired of this. And so each state that's represented there has one vote, which is why it's imperative that we send people to Washington, to these places of influence where decisions are being made. Again, this is why I harp on it so much. This is why I talk about it so much. Your vote matters, because who you select, who you put in office, is the very person that dictates what happens if we were to ever have a constitutional convention. This has never happened, though. That's the thing. This has never happened where a constitutional convention has been called because the 34 states demanded it. And the beautiful thing about this, though, when there is a constitutional a gathering like this, Congress has no say. The senators can't do anything about it. Crazy, right? So if we got serious enough, here's the tagline, here's the punchline, though. If we got serious enough and we're on the same page enough to really want change, We would select our representatives. 30 of the 50 would 34 of the 50 would go, as Paul said, or 37 and a half. I don't know. They would go, and then it says it has to be ratified, which means approved by at least 38. 38 says we need to make this change. Guess what happens? It happens. It can't be vetoed. It can't be, none of that can happen. However, we talk about the great divide of the United States. Like, we're really divided. And so because we cannot come to a general consensus on certain things, I honestly don't really see this happening. I don't really see this, although it can. It really can. I mean, the founding fathers put that in the writing. They put it in the documentation because they knew as we evolved, as things would change, we would need to make some differences, right? We would need to make some changes. Of course, you know, we got to the amendments. There were 27 amendments. So when we got to the amendments, it wasn't the latter part of this process. It's the first part of this process that calls for the amendments. When Congress, 2/3 of both houses, they deemed it necessary. They came together and was like, we need to make some changes to this. But what I'm saying is that we have the ability to change our environment around us if we could ever get on the same page. And the Constitution gives us that power. It gives us that power. Unfortunately, we have not been able to do it. So it was like, well, what would we need to? Why would we need to do that? Well, at one point, well, you have to understand, like, our government, right? A lot of people don't believe it, but if you look at it, our government, especially the federal government, our government has a lot of power. They have a lot of power, and this is not a rant. This is just where I'm at. Like, our government has a lot of power, especially when it comes to spending, when it comes to taxes, when it comes to, I mean, even small things like how long, you know, people can serve terms. Like, these are all things that if we were really serious about making change, if we really wanted to amend the Constitution, we could do that. We have the power to do it. So it's like, well, what would we need to use this for? Taxes. 30%, fam? Like, that's a lot. Like, Jesus get 10, Uncle Sam get 30. That's 40% of my taxes gone. That's it, out of there. Bye. Taxes out of there. But if we want to make some amendments, we could do that. How about federal spending? Like, we are, what, trillion? Almost what, $20 trillion in debt? Anybody know that number? The national deficit right now? That's federal spending. I didn't spend that much money. Like, it's like $20 trillion or something like that we're in debt. That's federal spending. They spend too much. Like, they're spending way too much. And you're right. Both sides will never come together. You're right. I feel like, although they put this in there, I just feel like we're just too divided as people, as ideology. I mean, even if it's not just color and culture, it's our finances, it's our ideology when it comes to religion. Like, is it Jesus? Is it Buddha? Is it Hebrew Israelites? Or, you know, like we're divided in so many ways. And so, although this is here, I don't ever see it happening. But I want us to know and be aware it's possible. It can happen. Okay, 26 trillion. Jesus Christ. We are $26 trillion in debt. And that's all federal spending. Like, that's federal spending. Our government has 26 trillion. Oh my God, 215,299,968. That's the number. That is crazy. That is crazy. Paul asked me, this is a good question. If I were king, what would I change? If I were king, I would change our government to a democracy, so people would have a say in our government. But secondly, I would change where our money goes and how it's spent. I feel like we spend way too much money in defenses, in military. I feel like we spend way too much money. I mean, we out here trying to bully. If we were, I feel like if we were nice to the people, we wouldn't have to spend so much money. But anyways, and you're right, Lamar. They can't they can't agree on getting rid of the payroll tax. They it's simple things. But here's the point where we as people can intervene in that process. We can say, yo, this is what we want. And then, yo, we send our representatives, we send our people. Classism keeps us divided. It does. It does. Because you can be black, but still there are black people that got money and don't have money. And so those who have money are somewhat or somehow, some way better than those who don't. Like, it's all dumb to me. That's a whole nother Be the People episode. But here we have the opportunity and we have the means by we can actually see those things change by simply, 34 states say, yo, we want something different. And then the Congress, well, anyways, you know how the process goes. All right, so I don't have much time left. This is what I want to talk about, the Daily Take. The Daily Take is basically where we talk about some stuff that's happening, that's popping in the news, that's happening in the media, that's happening on the streets, down the streets. I want to talk about the and I'm gonna try not to get mad because this is a whole situation. But the city of Louisville settles suit with Breonna Taylor's family for $12 million US. $12 million. They settled, as we know, and if you don't know, Breonna Taylor, she was 26. She was killed, I believe it was like back in March. Basically, they busted in her house. For whatever reason, it was a drug-related warrant or something like that. Her boyfriend opened fire. She didn't know who was who. He didn't know who was who. He opened fire. They arrested him. He didn't know who was breaking in his house. She was killed. And they didn't find what they were looking for. There were no drugs. He was charged with attempted murder. But again, he didn't know who was busting in his house. So some time has passed. That was March 13th. What is this? March, April, May, June, July, August, September. Wow. And the people who murdered this young lady still have not been brought to justice. Now, here's where I'm at. $12 million will never replace the life of Breonna Taylor. I understand that the family has bills. I understand the family has expenses. I know attorneys are not cheap. I know probably somebody may have lost their job because they missed work or just whatever. $12 million will never replace the life of Breonna Taylor. And what frustrates me so much is the fact that they paid $12 million, but there's still no justice. Like there hasn't been justice. Like we're not asking, we weren't asking for $12 million for the family. No, like we want justice. We want those who murdered Breonna Taylor to be brought to justice. It's simple. It's very simple. They broke into a home where it was whether it was a no-knock warrant or not. They broke into a home and murdered an innocent young lady. She was murdered. I mean, point blank, she was murdered. I don't care if it was law enforcement, if it was her boyfriend, it was her grandmama, it was a innocent life was taken, and there has not been any repercussions other than a $12 million settlement. Now, I want to read something that the beautiful mayor of Louisville said. He said a bunch of stupid stuff, but there was a specific statement that he made that I want to read, because to me, it again, it's really frustrating that this has happened, yet at the same time, like, there has not been justice. I feel like justice looks different when it comes to certain people. And here's why I say that. Here's why I say that. There were two officers that were ambushed and that were shot. And all we've been seeing is, justice. There it is. Yes, justice for them. Arrest the person who did it, and blah 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 blah. We want justice for them. Yet there's an issue. Like, there's an issue when we say we want justice for, like, we want justice for Breonna Taylor, but we can't get on the same page when it comes to that. Like, we want justice for law enforcement when their lives are taken, but when the black ones are taken, or when they're shot and they're murdered, because we talked about before, remember, as law enforcement, you're not the judge. We have a branch of government that does that. We have a branch of government that allows individuals who have committed crimes to go through a process, and then based on that process, they determine the outcome. They determine if the person lives or dies. Not some guy who had a bad day and so decided to be reckless and shoot. Like, we talk about police reform, and I didn't want to get like on police reform, but police departments across the nation are upset. They're mad. Why? Because y'all are being defunded? Now get me. I'm not on either side of defunding the police or whatever. What I do know is that law enforcement has an issue. And if law enforcement does not want to be defunded, my first premise is this: what are you doing to be proactive to make sure that the people that you protect have your best interest and have your trust? Because there are people that are voting for you to be defunded. They don't trust you. You're being paid to do a job that you are not doing. There are more people that are dying that is being put on Front Street, because, again, this has been happening. And again, this is not a rant, but this is, please hear my heart when I'm saying this. The issue is this: law enforcement has a problem, and law enforcement doesn't want to fix the problem. Okay, fine. And we see that here with Breonna Taylor. Like, there's been so many foul pieces of information that's came out, where I think it was like they were trying to get the ex-boyfriend to say that, to implement her in the deal. And if he were to say, like, yeah, she was a part of it, they would have implemented her and he would have walked, or he would have got some kind of immunity, some kind of deal. What? All in the name of justice? No, like, there's an issue in our justice system. There's an issue that's happening right now. And again, as people who have a say in our government, it is our time, and it is our opportunity to allow our voices to be heard. A lot of these positions, they're voted on. Like, these are people that we vote for. These are people that have our vote, but they don't necessarily have our voice, and that's a problem. Like, that's a problem. And I agree, Paul. Like, this is a no-brainer. It should be. But you know what? What happens is we talk about lobbyists, and we talk about special interest, and we talk about the police force, and we talk about all that. We talk about the unions, and at some point we'll get into that episode about how lobbyists can even be the police force, especially when it comes to senators. They have unions. Yo, you want specific legislation? All right, cool. We'll give you our votes. I'll make sure all NYPD will vote for you. We'll push you as the candidate, as NYPD, and this is what we want. Like, we're bartering our service for loyalty. However, that's the rant. So they gave the family $12 million, and basically the mayor is saying that it's not to say that it's not to say that they're innocent. They're still investigating. God knows how long they're going to investigate. You know how this goes. Um, it's just sad that it takes this long for a family, a young lady, to receive justice. Her life was taken in a moment. Like it was taken as soon as those bullets entered her body. Her life was gone. She's not here anymore. That was somebody's daughter, and she's gone. And there are laws that have to change. You're right, Paul. We got to change. We have to. We have to. And again, be the people is the call to action, y'all. Like we have work to do. As long as cases like Breonna Taylor and George Floyd and Trayvon Martin, even to go back, as long as these instances keep happening and there's no justice, then we have work to do. We have to be the people. So with that, y'all, I'm gonna leave y'all with that. I want y'all to know I love y'all, and I really appreciate y'all that tune in and hear me ramble every week just about the nation and the Constitution and stuff that's happening. But I want you to know I appreciate you joining me. If you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, TFG Media. Please be safe. If you are still on the road, know that I love you. Be the people. I'm out. Peace.